see how we're doing with our technology. Hey guys. Dave, I see Dawn, the sound surgeon. Trio Globo is playing. Eugene Friesen on the cello, come on. See how we actually got some technology fixed today. Thank you, Dawn Richardson. Good morning, Raylene. Let's see how the Restream chat is doing today. That's another thing, Dawn. Dawn, can you see if I'm on YouTube and Facebook? And hey, Lady Grace, it's you, Marcy. Vladovic is getting pardoned. Okay. Can you dig this harmonica? Favorite part right here. Doesn't this? Oh my goodness! Thank you. Still insurance. Listen to this. Doesn't this take your breath away? The sound of this piano. Doesn't it make you want to worship? I have an announcement to make, by the way, about that. Oh, I'm just gonna hear a little bit more of the Ivories here, and then we are gonna launch into our thing together. You know, aren't you refreshed by these changes in the chords that take you in unexpected places and shape your idea of melody? Could it shape your idea of prayer? Well, welcome in, you guys. Welcome to Fear Free Living. I did a really interesting broadcast yesterday. I think I ticked off a few people because they didn't want to think much past the title. The title was My Pain Proves There Is No God, or even worse. People wanted to look at the title and go, wow, you know, either she's right or she's wrong, and that's how it rolls. But that title was an invitation to begin to think more deeply about the things that we've experienced and how we interpret them and what they really mean. And we're going to go into that, and it's kind of an interesting, I'm not even saying I fleshed out my ideas fully yesterday. I'm just saying that we jump to the meaning of pain, the meaning of fear, the meaning of anxiety, or more aptly, we run from the deeper meanings because it's easier to be in reactive mode. Pain, fear, anxiety, trauma, they are physical reactions to stimuli. And so when your body's taking over, it makes it hard to go in to get the treasures, the insights that are buried underneath all of that are essential to our freedom. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. But first, I kind of want to make an announcement. You know, I've been talking to you about presence jazz. And for those of you who haven't heard me talk about that, you know, I'm a jazz-influenced singer-songwriter, and I have a radio show on NPR stations across the country called Dream Farm Radio. And if you're interested in what beautiful jazz synergies sound like that are not just unapproachable music that maybe is too heady for you, you're going to want to go to dreamfarmradio.org and pop in your email and just get my weekly episodes for free. Absolutely no spam, absolutely no advertisements. And you can hear the very best of the best of jazz musicians from all over the world who've come right here into my barn, right downstairs, to share original music. And they're very often fusions of East meets West or rock and jazz. We even had country and jazz, and I've always inflected something into that where I collaborated with those musicians and I talk with them and I ask them questions to make their music approachable. And so I have this passion for landscapes of art and music that make us go into deeper places on every level as we engage with the Lord, as we engage with God. And very often we are numbed by bodily responses, by grooves in our soul, grooves in music, grooves of anxiety and pain, into just going around the record over and over and over. What's time for a record scratch? And one of those record scratches is going to be hearing and sounding and hearing worship expressed through deeper language, poetry, and jazz-oriented music. So I did my best to do some videos with some great musicians, a bunch of African-American musicians who are all into gospel churches from the Boston area. And we recorded 14 different songs together in the fall. And we created a number of little Presence Jazz sets where they supported me on a nascent version of this jazz-shaped worship. So starting on the 29th, I believe, Saturday night, I'm going to start streaming sneak peeks of a tune each week of what we're working on, and then after I've given you the sneak peek, I'll give you the set. So every Saturday evening, Lord willing, and those of you share, I'm going to start sort of introducing you to some shapes of worship out of that jazz poetic realm. Anyway, so stay tuned for that. And let's talk about the power of the body and the power of how the body responds to fear and anxiety and pain, and why very often that becomes an end in itself and we don't move past that to the deeper message. I did a thank you. I am looking forward to sharing that with you. I can't see very good. Art. I did a live healing experience in my Facebook group on Saturday afternoon. If you're a member of the group, you want to go back and watch that, or if you want to invite yourself in, just look up My Fear Free Life group in Facebook and you can join. And the purpose of it was to move past the fog of bodily triggers and responses into the deeper stories that are buried in us, and because that's exactly where God meets. I did it last Saturday, so you can go back and listen to it. Because the thing of it is God is in the now, the ever-present reality of who he is outside of time, relating to your pain and my pain, where our bodies are stuck in the now of trauma and response and triggers, working so hard to keep us safe, which is a beautiful thing because God has designed our bodies to be our earth suits to keep us safe here on planet Earth. So they serve the purpose. The body serves a beautiful purpose of teaching us things, in addition to just keeping us aware and hypersensitive to things that could hurt us or things that remind us of pain. Our body also stores in it the reality of what we've come to believe and what our stories are. And so the thing of it is when you feel a bodily response, it tends to trump, if you will, the deeper things because it's so visceral. What you feel in your body feels more real than any other reality. And so when we're dealing with anxiety and when we're dealing with pain and fear, that is such a total response for all of us that it's interesting, But the very thing we need to do in order to get free of that consistent anxious control moving through our system is to do the one thing you don't want to do when you feel afraid or anxious or in pain. The one thing you don't want to do when you feel anxious is to go more deeply into it, is to go more thoughtfully into the pain, is to go more presently into the reality of that fear. And we as humans will do almost anything we can to avoid discomfort. And so the irony of being set free and the irony of my scope yesterday is that we have knee-jerk reactions to statements, to faces, to times, to places, to conversations, and to things that come up for us physically. And they present so strongly that our most immediate reaction is to allow that thing that's happening in us, that anxious thing, to drive us away from the treasures, to drive us away from what we really can harvest out of the experience. What we can really harvest. Does my pain prove there is no God, or worse? Does my pain prove that I have a destiny to repeat it? Does my anxiety prove that I'm not safe? Does my fear and panic prove that I can't get on that airplane, that I can't sing that song? That's how we live out of the gut response of our bodies. I think that's one reason why Paul tells us to make a separation between body, soul, and spirit. Now, in the Jewish way of thinking, soul and spirit are intertwined inexplicably. Spirit, we tend to think of there's nefesh, which is the thing that the breath of life, and I'm trying to remember what the other word is for soul. But the sense of nefesh is the animating spirit within you. And then there's another word for soul, which is your personality, right? Your choices, your thoughts, your ideas. And it's important that we become aware of these regions within us, because the body, the flesh, is so powerful. Especially, we tend to think of that as a problem relating to sexual temptation. That flesh, or that craving for food, or that craving to do just the lazy thing, but I see the power of the flesh really, really as a challenge and an obstacle sometimes to freedom, because of the fear responses in our body and the pain responses and what's buried under there. Even when you have a strong lust response, or hunger response, or a craving for food, or a craving to run, these are all telling us something. These are all telling us to go deeper, to go into the more of what's happening to us. But the body is so strong. The cravings for safety, the craving for food, the craving for sex, the craving for fulfillment, the craving for intimacy and touch is so powerful. We want to stop there. When the craving to be right hits us, or the craving not, to be accepted hits us in interactions, we just want to stop there. Full stop, dead. That's all I need to know. I better go medicate. I better run. I better hide. I better avoid. And the irony of it is that God calls us to understand the difference between soul and spirit and body, because when we can see that we are not our bodies, and we are not our feelings, and we are not the reality of the cravings we have, that I am not defined by cravings. I am not defined by my sexual attractions. That is not my identity. Did you know that your sexual attractions are not your identity? Did you know how you feel about your body is not your identity? Did you know that your your consistent desire to eat all the wrong things and drink all the wrong stuff or medicate is not your identity. It's not who you are. It's not the reality, the total sum. But everything in our culture right now is about feelings, about sensations, and they go so deep into us. But really, those things are a window into the deeper question. The deeper question is that, and this is the beauty of being aware of of taking note of what is making you anxious, taking note and articulating the fear, and articulating the craving, and articulating the longing, and articulating maybe the hatred of self, and the super strong visceral reactions and emotions that we all experience. They are not meant to be an end in themselves that define who we are. They are meant to be an invitation to a deeper journey. Our bodies, with all of our cravings and our emotions about our bodies and our triggers related to our bodies, are, my friends, meant to be a beautiful invitation to go deeper. But heaven forbid we should go deeper. And it's scary to go deeper. Many of us don't want to stop and be in the moment and be in the anxiousness and find out what God is allowing us to understand there and what he wants to set us free from. And so we stop and slap an identity on what we're feeling. Oh, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a druggie, I'm stupid, I'm ADHD, I'm LGQPRWXYZ, I'm a panic person, I'm this disorder, that disorder, whatever. I'm unable to fly, walk, teach, speak, confront. We turn the reactions of our bodies into identities. And the reactions of our bodies and our emotions are meant to bring us into the beauty of a deeper story and to ask God, what does this mean? Is that even true? So on Saturday, in the My Fear Free Life group, we did that. We had a little setup because I wanted to help people deal with anxiety. And the reality, if you're a person who really just deals with long-term anxiety, and it just permeates you. It's everywhere you go. It's where you sit, or it's hard to escape, and it keeps breaking in, and it's that white noise. It's just constantly, interrupting your settled sense of security. You can medicate it. You can do certain things, but you want to talk with it. You want to talk with it and begin finding out what is really the conversation going on in you. If I look at this, if I sit here in this, if I go more deeply into my pain and ask questions before God, what will I find? And usually what we find, my friends, is the anxiety is telling us that that we have a really strong story in ourselves of trauma, of pain, of situations that taught us how to be afraid. And so in our Fear-Free Life group, we had a little setup, and I asked questions, and I began to ask people, because it would start out with, well, I'm just anxious about the future, and I just don't know if I'm going to be okay. Well, tell me, describe that more deeply. What is your specific concern? Where is that? Where did that come from? Well, it went a lot deeper. It went into relationships. It went into abandonment. And it went into being shamed for several people for different things, of not being enough, not having enough, having to have it all together, not being able to trust God because of major authority figures that communicated that people are not okay and not safe unless they can prove their worth in the following ways. Those things get bound up on the inside of us, right? And they begin to speak powerfully, and they speak through the panic responses. They speak through the pain responses. I had someone at our table, by the way, get to the table. The table is the place of transformation right now, the family table. I'm going to do teaching about that this week. But somebody was at our table, and they're not on the same page as we in many areas, and were upset about the Kavanaugh hearings. Because during the Kavanaugh hearings, this person had a body memory of abuse. And Christine Blasey Ford's talking experience or testimony brought up something that was very real for this person. And out of that story came a larger meta story about politics and about, the Supreme Court justice and whether he should or shouldn't be where he is. And I believe a lot of women across the country had physical, visceral reactions and were triggered by that whole thing. And they're dealing with real pain and real issues and real things buried in them, projected out to project and keep it safe by being angry over politics, being angry over political figures. And I was able to say, I don't believe the accusations against Kavanaugh, but I do believe that many women had a sincere catharsis, and that whole drama served the purpose of bringing to the surface a lot of pain. And that usually that's where we want to stop. We want to stop there. We want to stop at the pain. We want to stop at the fear. We want to stop at the reaction. We want to stop at the politics and project it outward and be angry and upset about a Supreme Court justice and unable to see much more beyond. And I just want to invite you today. Your soul was hurt and the pain is real. That's exactly right. But we need to go more deeply than the pain, and more deeply than the anxiety, and more deeply than the fear, and into the story and the nowness of the Father through Yeshua, through Jesus, to meet us right there. So in the Fear Free Life Group event, we actually went to the deeper place. And we sat there and began to ask the deeper questions. What do I believe? What do I think? Where have I gone? Lord, come here now, into the nowness of this thing, beyond my reaction, and into the wound. If you want to live a fear-free life, if you want to get free of a constant anxiety that is ringing your bell on some unconscious level all day long, you've got to let God into the deeper stories, into the deeper memories. That's right. You've got to invite him into the things where you're going to have to deal with the people who hurt you and the wounds that they left. And the places that you've tried to put away. That's where you're going to have to go. That's where we all have to go. The irony is that when you're in a state of feeling those things, the last thing you want to do is stay there and ask the deeper questions. But that's where the gold is. That's where God wants to meet you. See, to simply pray, please make my feelings change. That is the way most Christians pray. Please make my feelings change, God. Again, I've said this, we have a very passive idea about fear. Fear not, little flock, for the Father's will to give you the kingdom of God. And we go, oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, Jesus said, fear, don't be afraid. Let me give you a little warmy hug. And he's not saying that. There are times when God comforts you with his love, but the command to fear not is a command to go to the places where you need the comfort and deal there. To go to the places where you have to set the boundaries and you'll need the comfort because you might be rejected because you set your boundary. To go to the places that need the comfort because you're dealing with the real memory, the real issue, the real pain, the real abusive uncle, the real questions about God because you don't feel like he was there when you needed him. In order for God to comfort you, you have to be in the real pain, with the real issues, dealing with the real people, setting the real boundaries, making the hard choices, risking the loss of people in your life because you will no longer play the game. God will comfort you there in a way you cannot imagine. But if you're on the outside, in the fuzz of your fear, panic, and pain, just praying for your feelings to change, my experience has been that that doesn't produce the peace we desire. The peace comes from the order of dealing with the deeper issues. And by dealing with boundaries, taking care of business, and risking our very hearts and souls, then the comfort of God meets us there. The comfort of God is different than the command not to fear. They're intertwined. But the command not to fear means we have to go in and deal with the things that have controlled us and triggered our emotions. That's what I have for you today. That's what I'm thinking about. And if you have the courage, you could go back to my scope yesterday and listen to this thing about pain proving the existence of God, or proving he doesn't exist, or worse, going a little bit more deeply into your own sense of betrayal. Did you know you can be a total believer and have an atheist brain? You can live like a functional atheist in the wiring of your brain, all the while as you struggle to be the person who has the most faith. It's an interesting dichotomy. And don't forget, if you want to get my music, books, you can go to julielavender.com. I have some cool music that's going to set you up for jazz worship and jazz inspirational songs. And Mrs. Amazing in the Seed is an incredible healing book for kids 10 to 14 and adults. Very healing for adults. Really fun message. And then my Fear Free Life group on Facebook. You can get on there and watch the replay of our healing session. I'm going to be doing some important posts over the next few days and weeks, and activations. And on the 29th, which I believe is Saturday, February, I hope to bring you the very first sneak peek of some live presence jazz music recorded right here in the barn. All right, you guys, go do something that scares you. Can you feel it? You know what it is. You go and deal and take care of business instead of run from the feeling, and that's where you will experience God's comfort. And I will see you guys tomorrow.